It was more than 25 years ago that the life of Medium Kenneth Drake was changed after a violent and horrifying encounter with the other side. Not a day has gone by that he hasn't heard the voices of the dead. Connecting audiences throughout the world to the other side for more than 25 years, now for the first time, Medium Kenneth Drake brings you the terrifying true case files and horrifying stories behind the messages. Enter the world of Kenneth Drake, a world filled with the voices of the dead. Now, your host, Kenneth Drake.
There you are. Good evening. I've been waiting for you. Welcome to Voices of the Dead. I'm Medium Drake, and for so many of you, I've been your voice to the other side and your voice in horror all these years. I was just talking to our incredible producer behind the scenes before we came on tonight, and wanted to say thank you for letting me live my dream all these years by sharing the voices of some of the most inspiring, empowering names in music and entertainment, in horror. This week we were joined by the legendary Hollywood horror icon Miss Eileen Dietz to commemorate the 50th anniversary of The Exorcist. But the party's just getting started. And tonight on Voices of the Dead, I have a tremendous privilege, a tremendous honor. When we announced that we would be doing Voices of the Dead, bringing these voices back to television, back to radio, we wanted to share the stories of how horror has changed and impacted not only our lives, but also many of the artists behind the scenes. And what we find, what I've found in my life, what I've seen and continue to see throughout all of these years, is that behind the horror, there are some very beautiful stories of how art has been created, music has been created, lives have been changed. And tonight, I'm going to try to get through this without getting choked up, get a little emotional. Tonight, I have the personal privilege and the honor of welcoming to Voices of the Dead one of the most iconic names in music, the former leading vocalist of the legendary Misfits, of the band Graves, horror rock icon, punk legend, the legendary Michale Graves.
Hello.
Michael, welcome to Voices of the Dead, my friend. It is, I have no words. I truly have no words. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on your show, and thank you for that incredible introduction. That honors me, that honors my life, that honors the energy that I put out into the world, and my goodness, I appreciate that so much.
The honor is mine, Michael. The honor is mine. And when we announced that you would, first of all, people were in disbelief that this is even happening tonight. From all over the world, I want to say people love you, people revere you. And just for me personally, before I go any further, I have to say, and just to honor you, to honor what you've done, you've been part of the soundtrack to my life. In high school, your music saved my life, and your music is still part of the soundtrack of my life today. And I just want to say, from me to you, thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for being who you are. And tonight, we're here to honor you, honor not only your incredible legacy, but we're here to brag on you too, and let some of the people that are just tuning in this younger generation, because I'm getting older now, I don't know about you, but
I'm trying not to, but
trying not to.
It's happening.
I'm going to try to tell some of these people of the younger generation about just how impactful this era that you've come from has actually been, continues to be. But I want to just start from the beginning, because so many people that are tuning in, of course, know you from the legendary Misfits as the former lead vocalist of the band. What many people may not know, though, is that brand would not be what it is today without the Graves era in the mid-90s. So take us through that process of even coming up in music and finding your inspiration and how that connection happened, because there was some divine timing behind that, it sounds like.
Well, I appreciate that very much, regarding the music and its relevancy regarding my time in the band. Yeah, well, we can go back to the divine part. This story fits so well on your program, and I don't really tell it often. But I always wanted to be a musician. I always had music, always had art in my heart, in my soul. It was always there. I heard music, and it just I felt alive inside. It's like when people like yourself, you're a medium, you're sensitive, so you're able to see and sense things in a different sort of way. When I hear music, it's almost like I can taste it, I can see music. It's something that it's hard to explain, and I recognized that happening to me when I was very young, and so I then became obsessed with communicating what I was feeling inside, getting it out somehow through the medium of music. So I dedicated my life to music. My mother saw that I wanted to be an artist and a musician, so every chance she saw that she could give me when I was young to hone my skills and be a part of something that was artistic or something that was musical, she would push me to do it. And so, and I say that because as I then became a teenager and got into high school, and eventually when I did get that opportunity for the Misfits, I was so far beyond most everybody else because I had so much experience. But so let me take a step back. So before the Misfits, you know, I was in bands and I was writing music. I was doing my thing, just waiting for my break. Always knew I was going to be a musician. Always knew it. I knew that was the path I was on. On a higher level, I understood it. I was just waiting for the entrance into it. In the summers, when I was a teenager, up here where I live now in New York State, there's lots of family resorts. Long story short, I used to come up here and spend the summers working at a family resort up here in the Catskill Mountains.
Wow.
Think about Dirty Dancing, kind of like that, not as sassy, not as poo-poo.
Time of your life, yeah.
yeah, much more lower middle class people coming and vacationing, and it's a very it's a family resort, and I loved the production that was happening. And I love that there was so much happiness, and I just wanted to so much be a part of what was behind making this happen for people. And so I got that opportunity. I came up here and I worked, and I got real close to the staff. Obviously, my friends were up here much more so than the people back east, back home in New Jersey where I am from. I hated everybody. I was the misfit. I was that kid that was voted most likely to shoot up the high school, in the 90s, early 90s. Yeah, just a lot of anger. I was I still am very, very introverted. I just kept to myself and wanted nothing to do with high school, nothing to do with anything but my music. And of course, obviously that caused problems. But so up here in the summer times, I would come up here and I would work, and I had a group of friends. One of my friends, we were very close. His name was Darren Gorch. When I was 18, in my senior year in high school, Darren Gorch was killed on the Catskill Creek. He drowned.
Wow.
And it was in March, April of, it's 1993, I think it was, the year that we graduated high school. And it tore me up, man. It tore me up. This is my friend. He was gone. It was a horrible accident. It shouldn't have happened. I never went back up after his funeral. I never came back up here, and I never came back up here.
Wow.
And so the summer that I was supposed to come back up here, was the summer that I spent working really hard for an opportunity that I got when I walked into a studio in Lodi, New Jersey, and started recording a demo with my band. And in the middle of that recording, the man who owned that studio and was producing this demo of mine and this band I was with called Mopes, he said, "Man, you got a really good voice. There's these guys that I've known since we were kids. They work here. They're from Lodi. They're called the Misfits. I'm going to give you Jerry's number. Give him a call. Audition, because I think that they're looking to get together, and I think you might be a great fit." So that's what I did. I called him. It was I called Jerry, and he said learn as much stuff as you possibly can, and when you feel ready, give me a call. And that's what I did. And so I eventually auditioned for those guys. The first time was the night before my 20th birthday.
Wow.
All right. So, yeah, it was the night before my 20th birthday. I walked in there and I auditioned. Now, let me keep going. So that wasn't it. It wasn't like I walked in and I auditioned and it was like, oh, you got it. It's great. This went on for a while, okay? My birthday is in March. So I auditioned for them. It was mid-March. April, May, June, July, August. It was like they put out ads that they were looking for singers. It was this crazy. There were people, once word got out that Jerry was recording the auditions, people came from like all around the world to try to get into the band. I always heard Glenn might come back. Dave Vanian was supposed to sing for the band. It was crazy, dude. It was crazy.
Wow.
It was crazy. All right. So Halloween's coming up. Halloween of like 1994, I guess it was, or 1995 maybe. It had to be 1995. Halloween of 95 or 94, something like that. All right. So Halloween's coming up. Now the Misfits have to, and they don't have a singer. The Misfits have to make a decision because the Misfits have to come back on Halloween. They have to make this big comeback on Halloween.
Make it
spooky. Do it in December. Right. So they're like, all right, what are we going to do? They get a phone call from Ken Creedy, who was Typo Negative's manager. You know, Brooklyn hardcore, New York hardcore scene was exploding at this point. Typo Negative was one of the biggest bands in America. And so Ken Creedy calls up and goes, hey, listen, I got an idea. Why don't the Misfits, why don't you guys come out and relaunch during the encore of the Typo Negative show that's sold out on Halloween night at Roseland in New York City. And the Misfit guys go, Jerry goes, all right, it's a great idea. We don't have a singer. So he goes, hey, do you think Pete would want to sing? Pete Steele. You think Pete Steele would want to sing it? Ken Creedy's like, all right, let me call you back and call Pete. Pete wants to sing. He's like, Pete goes, all right, I'll do it. I don't know any of the songs, though. Somebody's got to teach me these songs, and I'll do it. So everyone looks at me. They call me up. They're like, hey, Michael, do you want to teach Pete Steele the Halloween, these a bunch of songs so that we can go?
What?
Now, I'm a huge Typo Negative fan. Like, I'm a huge Typo Negative fan. I once, it was probably a year before, stayed late at a Typo Negative show and walked up to Pete and gave him one of my tapes and was like, hey, Pete, anytime you get maybe 5 minutes just to listen to my stuff. Like, I was that guy. So I'm like, hell yeah, I'll teach Pete Steele these songs. Pfft, all right. So we all go to Brooklyn to the Typo Negative rehearsal spot. I'm freaking out inside, man. I'm 20 years old, right? And I'm with the Misfits guys over here. We're going to Typo Negative spot. I'm freaking out. So we get there, and the Typo Negative spot is exactly how you would think about it in your mind. It's dark, it's dusty, and there's like power tools, and it's really, really strange. It's like some crazy torture dungeon. That's the way I remember. And we start playing the songs, right? Everybody plugs in, they're doing this thing, and we start playing these songs. 1, 2, 3, go. They're doing it, and I start singing the songs. And Pete's got the lyrics, he's listening, he's paying attention, he's doing his thing. And so I hand him the microphone. He starts doing it. It's like, all right, yeah. So we start working back and forth. We get maybe a half hour, 45 minutes into a really, like, we were working. And Pete's like, everybody just stop. This is crazy. Just stop. This is your singer. Like, what are you guys doing? This is your singer, this kid right here. He sings these, he's teaching me these songs. You know what I mean? Like, duh, what are you guys doing? And I'm like, yeah, what are you guys doing? No. So
it's unbelievable.
So there it is. I walked out onto stage that Halloween on Roseland, New York City. That was the first time, and it was at the behest of Pete Steele.
I have chills listening to this. That's the most incredible thing I've heard of all the stories. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That element too, and it's one of many of the things that I've always treasured about you, about your music, is that you have this sense of genuine spirituality, if I may respectfully call it that, where there's the power of, you feel the power of the Spirit in that, and you bring that through, and it's evident in even from some of your work with I think of Dig Up Her Bones. That comes to mind, of course. Even the lyrics in that, there's this spirituality to it where you've never been ashamed of that, and that came through. I think even in my humble interpretation, it came through even in your time in that era. People sometimes don't know, though, and in fact, by the way, people are it's going crazy over here. People are saying legend. Same comments over and over. Legend.
I love you all.
Legend. Wow.
Thank you.
Wow. We love you. The whole world loves you. I want to ask this before I go any further, though. A lot of people are asking, how is the best way to get autographed merchandise from you? Do you the online store, or what's the best way to connect with you on that?
Probably get in touch with official Michale Graves at officialmichalegraves.com.
Okay, official Michale Graves at officialmichalegraves.com.
Yeah.
For those of you that are just tuning in tonight to Voices of the Dead, I have the tremendous privilege, the tremendous honor of being joined by horror rock punk icon, the legendary Michale Graves, former lead vocalist of the Misfits, but a legendary singer-songwriter in his own right. And what some people out there might not realize, it's been a long time ago now. As I said, we're getting older, or I am, you're not. But that feeling of, when we think of the nostalgia of that time, the Misfits at the time were not the brand that we know today as
That's right.
the Misfits. And so in many ways, you, in that element, were responsible for, I think, some of the iconic imagery that we now associate with the band The Misfits. Because before that, as hard as it wasn't the imagery that we associate with that now. And can you talk us through that? I mean, when you came on board, when this divine timing, when the stars aligned, when Spirit led you, this divine alignment to recognize this, as far as the imagery of that time, what we see in the video, iconic video, one of my all-time favorites personally, Dig Up Her Bones. Also, even in some of the visual imagery. Imagery coming back.
This is Patty Negri.
Hi, I'm Pete Orbea.
Hi, this is Nicole Strickland.
My name is Hero.
My name is Sean Clem.
Hey everybody, Cleet Keith here, author of Ghost of Greystone Beverly Hills. I'm excited to invite you to the OC Paracon, which is going to be the first week in October.
Now that's just some of the people you're going to meet at Orange County Paracon. That would be Anaheim's first ever paranormal conference. I'm Henry, the organizer and also the host of Paranormal Perception, inviting you to meet those people that you just saw. You'll meet everybody, including some guests, some people that we haven't even announced on the website. It's going to be a surprise. Everything, info, tickets available on that website, ocparacon.com. Hope to see you to kick off our favorite time of the year in Anaheim at OC Paracon.
Take us with you on the go and download the new WLTK-DB mobile app. Search the App Store and Google Play under WLTK-DB Talk Radio. Download free today. The unexplained. It's all around us and usually supplies more questions than answers. You need answers. You need Cross Country Paranormal. Founded by Benjamin Young, CCP seeks to train, educate, and mentor anyone that has a passion for the paranormal. CCP is building a network of teams and investigations across the country, and all experience levels are welcome. Learn more about CCP on their website, ccpinvestigations.com, where you can find frequently asked questions, check out their equipment, follow their latest events, and of course, shop. Visit them now at ccpinvestigations.com. That's ccpinvestigations.com. Cross Country Paranormal. All are welcome. All are family.
And welcome back to Voices of the Dead from that commercial break. I'm Medium Drake, been your voice to the other side for a long, long time. But tonight we're hearing a very iconic voice. Former lead vocalist of the legendary Misfits, legendary singer-songwriter, horror, rock, punk icon, the legendary Michale Graves. Michael, we're in disbelief that you're here. Thank you for even taking the time. Thank you for being here. For those that are just tuning in now after that commercial break, we were talking about how there was this divine sense of alignment with, and it's too much to be coincidental. I don't believe in coincidence personally. And with what you're sharing, it sounds like you, not only were you in the right place at the right time, it seems there was something divine to that.
Yeah, and to add to what I was saying before, as all those coincidences lined up, I randomly picked that studio out of the back of the newspaper. It was the biggest ad. I remember asking my girlfriend at the time, I'm like, what? There's like 17 studios. Like, how do I? And she said, choose one that has a big ad because they're spending money on media, and that means that they really care about their business. So I was like, all right, that seems to make sense. And so Real Platinum Studios from Lodi, New Jersey had a really big, beautiful ad. And I'm like, that one, just totally out of the blue, man.
Wow. But before, this story is one of the most incredible stories with typo negative. It's one of the most
again, and like a huge typo negative fan. Like, I was a huge typo negative fan. I would have probably, I would have surmised that an anvil would have fallen on my head from atop a roof before I would be standing in a room with Pete Steele, teaching him classic Misfits songs, teaching him Halloween, Horror Business, I Turned Into a Martian, Skulls.
Wow. Iconic. I mean, genuinely iconic. One thing that we were talking about before the commercial break is, for those that are tuning in, and even some from the younger generation now who are just coming into that era of music, at the time, it wasn't really the brand that we see now, as far as imagery, as far as the of course the iconic fiend skull, the logo. That came about during the Graves era. Can you talk us through a little bit about how even the imagery, visual imagery, even in some of the lyrics, but most of all the overall branding of what's come to be this iconic, picturesque visual, how did that actually come about? Because it seems with your tenure in this Graves era, everything changed, but it opened the music up to a much broader demographic than before. And so that's why when it came on, I think so many people here are agreeing with that. Wouldn't know the Misfits without Michale Graves. So many of those comments, wouldn't know the Misfits without Michale Graves. 3 of those. we wouldn't know the Misfits without Michale Graves, and I concur. But can you talk us through that era, even as far as the vision behind the branding at the time in the mid-90s?
It was really just that white crimson ghost skull. And that image became so popular back then because of the bass player in Metallica. I can't remember, Cliff Burton, because Cliff Burton had the shirt on, and there's that very famous image of Cliff wearing them, and the guys from Metallica were big fans, and so you had Metallica doing Last Caress and doing Green Hell, and Guns N' Roses did Attitude. So the Misfits, again, when I was getting into the band, there was much more legend about the band than anything else. They had only played a handful of dates. They released a lot of music, but as far as like a live band, it really wasn't a thing. There was much more. There was that really famous, it's a VCR tape of a show that like everybody saw, and then eventually, as we were going around to especially in America, everyone was like, I was at that show. Yeah, I saw the Misfits, but like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. You didn't. It was much more like storytelling.
Yeah. Wow.
So when I got in the band, the first thing that we did was the Resurrection tour, and we played pretty much like our set consisted of every single old Misfits songs, with the exception of like Cough Cool, Demonomania, like songs like that, like the real B-sides, the real deep stuff,
This had been 96, or is it already 90?
This is 1995. So the Resurrection tour was 1995, I believe. I turned 21 in Stuttgart, Germany on that tour, so it was in March, and it was about a month long. So now the imagery at this point and the art is really Jerry. Jerry only is just this master of, he always had the vision, he always knew how he wanted it to be, and Doyle had really great ideas. And at this point, when I was just learning, I just stood back and allowed them to do the imagery at this point, because it was genius. I knew I was the music guy. So when we launched, again, the Misfits, the punk days, they were still real punks in 1995. It was at the end, but they were still real punks. They were still real skinheads. There were still the rules that kept that culture together, much different than today. And the Misfits were like gods, right? So you have Jerry, you have Doyle, and then you have me, and we started in Europe, and punk rock was not that people were being mean to me, but I expected something totally different. It was very, very violent. It was very, very violent. These were the days where there were no barricades. Like we worked up to the whole barricade things. So it was insane. But this was all good because I learned the songs so well. Every single lyric that Glenn wrote, all the movies, I watched the movies. I asked people about I tore it all apart, dude. I got a PhD in what Glenn was doing and what I thought was in his mind when he was pushing that art forward, because Danzig as well is not just a musician, he's an artist. Right. He's a creative, and it's a different thing. You could just be a musician. I know guys that are just musicians, and then there are guys that are artists, like Gwar. Those are like why it's great to tour with a band like Gwar. Those guys are artists, right? So Glenn was an artist. So I took this all apart, and going through this and seeing the people that we were playing in front of, and being a 21-year-old kid, it came up to the time now I'm sitting there going, all right. In order for, and everybody, saying, all right, in order for us to be a legitimate band in music, because there was a lot of bands getting back together, old bands getting back together and doing the whole reunion thing. But in order for us to be relevant and say, no, we're in this right now, is to release new music and make that music work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was 21. Jerry was already 35. You know, Doyle and Chud were about 31 years old. I was just out of high school. And so I was really in touch with what young people felt like, because here I am, young. I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm just some kid from Dumont. I'm in one of the biggest, you know, and most important bands on the planet now. and we have record companies looking at us. So I started to think, and I started to write this music, and I wrote a bunch of songs. And one of them was American Psycho. And I had just read Bret Easton Ellis's book. And I said, this is it. This is the zeitgeist. We have to open the record with, because everything was whoa, whoa, whoa about the Misfits. I thought that was an important thing. you know, Misfits were the whoa, whoa, whoa band. So the first thing you hear on American Psycho is the whoa, whoa, whoa thing. And it's called American Psycho to touch that nerve that was happening, the way that things were feeling in 1995, and that was it. Now, and I was a powerhouse in writing music and being able to get that together. And like you said, I was the spirit, I was the soul of the band.
Right.
And Jerry and those other guys too were incredible musicians, very talented writers. But the images that were coming out of that were really produced and pushed out by Jerry only. I mean, you still see the incredible imagery that comes out of the Misfits, which is Jerry doing it, you know, and Glenn too. Now there's some, and so you just have this, again, this cooperative of artists that are able to do incredible things. And the records, American Psycho, Famous Monsters, were so popular, and still continue to sell and continue to play. And so now things have reversed. You know, there's people that have discovered Glenn's Misfits. You know, the Misfits before me. Through American Psycho and Famous Monsters. As I was writing, and this is the last point, and we can move on. I always had in my head, Medium Drake, that I said, as long as I had the mantra in my mind, would Glenn dig this? Could I explain this to Glenn Danzig and have him go, yeah, all right, I get it. I don't like it, but I get it, and have him feel proud that it was the Misfits, because he's the father of it. It's not my thing. You know, I came into it, and I always had respect, you know, for that creation of his. I took it very, very serious. And so I hope someday he, you know, I have that opportunity where he can be like, yeah, that sucked. And, you know, or yeah, dude, that was awesome. But that was my mind.
Is there a possibility that could happen? This collaboration, even with just, of course, place now with everything that, of course, now we have the quote the original Misfits. I think they have something coming up a little later in fall, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know why my phone doesn't ring. I mean,
I don't know.
From the creative side to the artistry side to the money side, like it's a win-win situation. It's like, you know, it's a 360 win. It's a 360 win. So, you know, I have. You know, I would just be speculating to give you reasons why, you know, it doesn't happen. I don't know, but
if you got the call, I'm going to just throw this out there. I think it's not a matter of if. I think it's a matter of when, because I know people want this to happen. I mean, we're getting so many messages. Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, me too.
Me too. The messages are coming in.
I've publicly and privately to the individuals that are involved all over. I'm 100% into it. I'm 100% into it. I never stop playing the music. You know, I'm out there. I celebrate that music now. God, I would love to walk back on stage and make and walk off stage with these guys and make music with them again, because aside of everything else, you know, you hear the horror stories, and there are about, you know, my behavior and other people's behaviors. You hear all the stuff about the workings of the band and why we came apart and everything. The one thing that we did great was we made music, and we were so good. We were such a great live band. We did that so well, man, and we were just on our way. We were on our way. Yeah, we were on our way. Dang.
I believe there are people that are out there watching, that are listening to this, and the demand is there. I mean, it's a different time, it's a different era, but you can't.
Yeah, I'm not expensive either. I'm not expensive.
That's a Voice of the Dead exclusive. Because, you know, even now, I mean, it's no exaggeration. I mean, it's really, it's no hyperbole. People revere you, love you. I mean, and so many of you grew up with him. I mean,
I love you guys. I love you all too. My goodness.
The thing that I think is so, and I have to say, I mean, needed is, you know, we're in this time now where, and not to get into the, you know, the aspect of censorship, but there is something at play now where true art, and of course everyone creates art, I know, in their own ways, but I mean artists who have this passion to create, it's a different world than it was then in the mid 90s. But there's this demand that never goes away, because so many people are even messaging now where it's, you know, we want this to happen. So for those of you that are just tuning in tonight, raise your voice. We want this to happen too. Whatever we can do to get this ball rolling, wherever you're watching in the world tonight, we need to get this ball rolling.
Yeah. You got to bring it to Jerry only.
So,
I mean, you got to bring it to Jerry only.
Guys, you heard it here first. There is a possibility that we could actually see some movement here, because I mean, the response is incredible, the demand is incredible, and even as powerful as the work and the art that you brought to the table in the Graves era, as powerful as that is, that's only a small part of the testament of who you are and what you do. I mean, I say that from myself, not only as a fan and someone who loves you, but it's so obvious, because even now, all this time later, by the way, I wanted to bring this up. One of the very best things, I think one of the most well-produced, just best overall choreographed videos is Michale Graves live at Blackthorn 51. The production quality of that, I mean, there are, I think a few people agree with that. So even that, I mean, you bring the imagery to everything that you do, even now. And, you know, thank you for it. I mean, honestly, thank you. People from all over the world are saying thank you, thank you, thank you. So I feel like the next chapter is going to be the best chapter, whatever that is. I think people want it.
I tell you, it's like, I don't know if there's anybody out there that water skis or anything, but there's a time in my life I did a lot of water skiing, and this whole journey has been like when you fall off the skis and for a while you hold on to the rope, just for like a couple of seconds, and you just get tossed and turned and just beaten in the face with water. This is not an easy life. Like, this is not an easy path. My book would not be, about roses and, pretty raindrops and stuff. It's the love and the connection to all those people that you were just talking about, and all the people that are touched by my music. It blows my mind, because it's a supernatural event. When I take, for example, a song like "Dig Up Her Bones," like I don't even know what that song is about. When I was writing, and I was like 16 years old, and that's why when you read those words, they're so abstract.
Years old when you first wrote "Dig Up Her Bones."
I was 16. Yeah, I was 16. And so, I mean, the words and the first verse, like the words to that song, except for the second verse, I wrote the second verse when I was in the Misfits after Doyle and I demoed it. But the rest of the song is exactly the same as when I was 16. So it's like anything is what she is, anywhere is where she can be, anytime. It's just like that's the anywhere, anytime, anywhere. I'm using these huge words, right? And so it's when you think about it, it doesn't. I mean, sure, it means something, but I was a 16-year-old kid. There was something on my heart that I was trying to explain, and I couldn't really do it with the words. It's not the words that are doing it. It's somehow, and it's all great, music and art. It's that impregnation, if that's a word. It's impregnating that feeling I have in that music, in those movements, and even in the words, like a spell being cast. And so here I am, a 16-year-old kid. I don't even know what's up or down, man. And I write this song. It goes out into the world. And a kid halfway across the world, right? These kids that don't even speak English, man. Like you can't have a conversation with them, but they can sing "Dig Up Her Bones" with you. And it changes them. Like they feel it, and it becomes part of their life. It becomes part of their life to where, like when you think back on a time, you're like, yeah, man, and you listen to a song and it brings you back. That's a supernatural thing that's happening to you, that connection. I'm a stranger. I don't know that person halfway. I don't know any of those.
Yeah.
I don't know, but there's this really crazy cosmic connection that happens.
Yeah.
And I respect that. And so, when the waves get high and the beatings get bad, really that's all that's left is that love, like that collection of everything. To me, in my heart and in my soul, it settles, and after the equal sign, it says that's love.
Wow. Wow. For those of you, sorry, I choked up. It's powerful. That's for those of you that are just tuning in tonight. I'm Medium Drake, and sometimes I have no words. I mean, this is what you're hearing tonight. You're hearing the behind the scenes, and you're hearing the heart of the legendary horror rock icon, punk rock icon, former lead vocalist of the Misfits, legendary singer-songwriter in his own right, the legendary Michale Graves. He's sharing his journey, not only into the Misfits, but life through the Misfits, life after Misfits. And now the music, it's never stopped. Even though there have been some lineup changes, as most of you know, the music never stopped. It never died. That magic that connects us. And when you say that it's all about love, I mean, I think there are people that are feeling that all over the world right now. Tell him we love him. I mean,
I love you too.
And what's coming up in this chapter for you, and what can we do? We're saying this not only as fans, we're saying this as allies to you. What can we do to support you? What's coming up in this chapter? What's something you're hoping to accomplish? What can we do to support you?
Well, what you can do to support me is to keep an eye on officialmichalegraves.com. I do my best to get things that are important up there. You could, being Michale Graves is really difficult right now because it's my organization is very, very small. And by small, it's myself and one other person, and then a couple of other individuals, and it's not like I don't have a manager or a record company, or I don't have those things. My band walked out on me. It's been a tough couple of years. So, and I. For me and for a lot of people that I talk to, that I minister to, that I play for, life is things are increasingly difficult, and for me as well, on a lot of different levels. So I'm getting back out on the road mostly. I mean, that's what I do. I perform live. So I'm going back out on the road in September, into September, and running through November. I'm doing a lot of private shows.
Wow.
Where I walk into people's houses. Like I walk
private shows where it's more intimate setting with you.
I walk into people's living rooms and I sit on their couch and I meet their mom. I meet mom. I meet dad. I meet friends.
What the hell are you? That's coming up this fall.
Yeah, I've been doing it for years, and I'm doing another one. Go to officialmichaelgraves.com, or if you want, if anybody out there is interested in details, booking at officialmichaelgraves.com. But yeah, I do these private shows, and sometimes there's 5 people, sometimes there's 10 people, sometimes there's 2 people, but I sit and I play a whole set of, on the acoustic guitar. Sometimes I have this package where you get to keep the guitar that I play for you, and I paint these awesome, like I put designs and stuff right on the guitar, and I play a bunch of songs. And so there's all these like experiential packages that I've put together, and it's incredible because I can sit down, and like I said, I see people's houses. Hey, come see this room and look at the pictures, and we barbecues, and friends are coming over, and grandma, the dog, and so it's obviously it's a really different setting than a club. But I'm a musician of the people. It's like old school when dudes used to jump on the train, and go cross country and just, pop into onto the farm.
Yeah. And that genuineness, I think so many people seem to agree. It's part of who you are. It's not, and I very rarely would I say this, but I mean, I feel like you are more than an entertainer, as powerful as that is, and you're in your own element of entertainment. You bring that magic and you make it relatable. You said that you're the musician for the people. I mean, it's so needed right now.
Thank you.
People agree with that. I get that sense there are more people that love you, more people that want to support you than it might seem like right now. Because there are people,
I appreciate that,
right now that are even messaging. If you're just tuning in to Voices of the Dead, I'm Medium Drake, and we have the tremendous privilege, the tremendous honor of being joined by a true icon, a horror rock icon, punk icon, former vocalist of the Misfits, a legendary singer-songwriter in his own right, Michale Graves. You've also served our country. Spent some time in the armed forces. Tell us about that. How has life changed for you after that?
Well, I found out that the military was definitely not for me. What I loved about that time, again, it was getting to know the people that I would work with. Especially, young people that were trying to get into the military, that were trying to better themselves, that wanted to do something with their life, and they've decided the military, and so they would run into, me, and then they would find out who I am, and I would help young people get physically fit, get mentally fit, and just motivate and talk to young men, to get them ready to take that next step into, what they were getting themselves into. What I really mostly enjoyed about my involvement and my continued involvement really with people that are in the military is my ability to reach and have an impact and help with veterans and active duty service members, men and women, who are having a hard time, PTSD or physical problems, because there's a lot of there's a lot of mental issues. There's a lot of problems that vets experience: depression, loneliness, and suicide. It's awful. And there's a stigma attached to it, so being able to help out in that way, I think that obviously is like the overarching thing in everything that I've ever done, whether it was joining the military. I mean, I joined the military not only to help people, but at the time I wanted to kill people too, to be honest with you. So I joined the Marine Corps. We're up. Which is not a good thing. I'm not saying that that's a good thing. I'm saying that's the truth of my story. But at the same time also wanting to save people. And again, it's a whole different, you and I, we can have a 3-hour conversation just on that.
I also say too, and while we've got you on, I want to say you have an open invitation anytime.
Right on.
Seriously. I mean, man, this is what you're sharing. It's not just your story. It's a story that's resonating with so many people. And that voice, not just your singing voice, not just your incredible artistic voice, but the voice of your soul that
I appreciate that.
In the music, in the lyrics, in what you do now. Talking about being an artist for the people, though, I think that's really resonating with a lot of people. I think of your work on me and Eccles, which a lot of people may not know. I mean, even that partnership, that collaboration, you've always given back. You've always tried to leave people a little better than you found them. Put it that way.
Yeah, for sure. And because I'm trying to fix myself. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm doing this because I'm trying to fix myself. But getting to develop a relationship with Damien Eccles, and we began writing back and forth to one another, physical letters while he was still on death row in Arkansas. And so having a relationship like that, and seeing how the incredible force of man-made powers, our justice system, how even though you can look here and look at one thing and go, oh my God, this is reality right here. But this whole other thing over here was happening. And the consequences of that is this individual, Damien Eccles, literally sitting in death row like an animal. And then him bringing me into this world and saying, hey man, it's just not me. Like, I'm a white guy from Arkansas that HBO made a documentary about. Let me tell you about some other people. And then getting involved with and speaking with and having the ear and the the guidance of somebody like Mara Leverett, or the Innocence Project, or Sister Helen Prejean. These incredible people that talk about life and God and the America and the justice system, and really opened my eyes to a lot of things. And again, it's the humanity. It's the humanity in everything. And I think that's what resonates when I speak, and I resonate with people. It's because not only am I able to speak about the physical world, but I always take that one step into the supernatural, that other world that's happening simultaneous around us, that is there. And it's just, you can't sometimes, but you can't see it with your eyes, and our human senses are really not keen to it. And in some sense, we can't, because we're not, our supercomputers, the equipment that we have, our eyes, our ears, our nose, our sense of smell, all these things are not able to see spectrums of light, or, these different things that are there. And when I tie the two things together, and again, I can do it with with coincidences that have happened in my own life. Like even, not just, and there, and there's even more when you really look at the high resolution story of me and my life and getting into the Misfits, and where there isn't, it can't be coincidence. It's just, so it gets crazy and people go, oh, especially now, especially nowadays, people go, oh man, yeah. And it really, it puts not a stamp of approval, but a lot of people that wouldn't necessarily, I think, or wouldn't have that conversation about, the other side or, these, all of a sudden it's like, wow, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I feel that, I feel that.
Wow. I agree. I mean, you say that so perfectly, but there's that hunger. In my line of work, I so relate to that. I mean, there's that hunger where it's that hunger for, there's more than what we're seeing.
Certainly.
And with what you do, what you've done for so long, what you've done so well for so long, still do so well, honestly, is you bring that sense of relatability to say, even there's the fun aspect, there's the horror aspect, but then behind that, there's the reality, the relatability of stories that are helping people. And you've always done that. I mean, I can't even tell you the number of messages we've gotten where it's people saying, he got me through high school too. And as I was sharing with you, I mean, when we first connected, you were a part of the soundtrack to my life then. You're still part of the soundtrack to my life now. So, Michale Graves, thank you for joining us tonight from the bottom of my heart. We're going to close with this. Not only is that from me, but I think it's from a lot of other people that love you, adore you. It's been such an honor to have you here tonight on Voices of the Dead with us. You have an open invitation, by the way. I feel like you're
all right
already. So you have an open invitation. We're gonna raise our voices too. For those of you that are tuning in, we're gonna raise our voices because I think there's some big things coming up and good ways to get him on a stage, in a stage near you, in your city. So raise your voice, request him, bring him to a stage near you. But Michale Graves, it's been the honor of a lifetime. And
thank you
being here. So from all of us here at Voices of the Dead, been joined tonight by rock icon, horror rock icon, punk icon, former lead vocalist of the Misfits, but legendary singer-songwriter in his own right, Mr. Michale Graves. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here.
Good night, everybody. God bless you.
Thank you. We love you. Have a good night.
I love you too.
Thank you.